Today, I'm going to break down half a steer into all the cuts you would see in your local butcher shop.
All right, so we're starting off with the round, which is so you're going to get a lot of nice big roasts out of here.
Here are the final cuts from the round. Later, I'll come back to the shank and cut it down using the bandsaw. Next, I'm going to break down the loin.
So we're taking a look at the loin, which consists of basically two sections here. We have our drop, and then we have our short loin.
Here are the final cuts from the loin. This is what you'd see in the case at the butcher shop. Next, I'm going to break down the rib.
All right, so we're taking a look at the rib. So this is going to be familiar to everyone. I mean, if anyone's ever seen the cover muscles, these are tough membranes that I'm just going to pull off. And once I pull them off, I can start getting access to my skirts here. Here, I'm removing the outside skirt. It's going to be the darker, richer one. It has a more of a minerally taste, very similar to a hanger steak. So next I'm going to take off the navel. There's some cartilage that holds all this in place that go along the rib bones. So here we're just using like a basic handsaw, and it's great because you can do a lot of this with just a handsaw, a boning knife, and a table. It's really elegant using the leverage, the side of the table, the gravity helping as well. So we have our plate here, a short rib plate, and then now we have our rib.
So here's the breakdown of the rib. Now I'm going to clean these up and break them down further into the cuts you'd see at the butcher shop.
Right now I'm just cleaning some of the membranes off of the skirt steaks. You know, inside skirt and outside skirt, I want to get rid of some of the tough fascia, but I want to leave some of the fat on too, because I think some of the fat on there is nice. It doesn't have to be completely barren of fat. And then for the rib, I'm going to actually hand shine the rib here. I'm basically lining up my saw so I can get through the spine there, and I'm cutting through so I can eventually cut through the steaks by hand. And in this case, I'm going to take the chine and the feather bones all off at once. So there's going to be some lifter meat that's going to sit on the outside of the steer, so this is going to be tough. So I'm going to pull this off. And then I'm going to hand cut steaks now. Now that the chine's gone and the feather bones are gone, we're going to hand cut some nice ribeyes.
These are the final cuts from the rib. Later, I'll come back to the short rib plate and cut it down using the bandsaw. Next, I'm going to break down the chuck.
All right, so this is, to me, the most interesting cut.
Here's the breakdown of the chuck. And now I'm going to cut these down further into cuts you'd see in the case at your butcher shop.
And then I'm going to start breaking down my chuck. So from here, I'm going to seam the chuck eye off of the Denver. I'm going to face this a little bit because that was part was exposed, because that's where it was split. And here we have some chuck ribeyes. A lot of flavor, a good tenderness as well. So this is some of my favorite steaks right here from the shoulder. So I peeled off the chuck eye, so that can be a nice roast as well, chuck eye roast. And now we're going to cut these beautiful, beautiful Denver steaks. You can see they're nicely marbled, and these are excellent steaks. And this is like my perfect butcher's cut right now.
Here are the final cuts from the chuck. I'll come back to the chuck rib plate and cut it down using the bandsaw. In a butcher shop, it's something that can allow you to make precise cuts as well as save you a lot of time and effort when you're cutting through bone. Cutting down these ossobuco to about 1.25 inches. This is really nice size for a pot, and it exposes the marrow. We want all that marrow dripping out all over our beef as we braise it. Next, I'm going to cut down the chuck rib plate from the chuck. The bandsaw is going to allow me to make nice, thin cuts on the rib plate, cuts from the bandsaw. And finally, these are all the cuts you get from a side of beef.